Hey everybody, welcome back to Anglo Election Insights, where today I'm coming in just with a quick video on a Senate prediction. It's kind of hard to predict this far out. We don't have much detailed polling on different minor parties. We're not exactly clear on who all of the candidates are necessarily, or at least I'm not, outside of some of the bigger announcements recently. So it'll be a little bit of a conservative estimation, but I'll try and talk a little bit more broadly about some of the other minor parties and the reasons why I've gone for certain combinations. So we'll jump right into it with the current makeup of the Senate, and I hope I haven't made any errors here. The top row of each state represents the ones that are up for election. So they'll reflect the 2019 result, including defections to the crossbench. And then the bottom row will be the 2022 result, which are senators that will be continuing. So as we can see, it's a little bit... The Senate at the moment slightly favours the centre-left because of the Liberals losing their ACT senator and Labor gaining an extra senator in WA, but the defections have complicated things a little bit. So we'll just move right on to my predictions. Firstly, in Victoria, last time, of course, we had this result, but UAP's Ralph Babet was able to claim the third centre-right spot because of the rebounding primary vote for the Liberal Party in Victoria. I suspect that without those kind of COVID issues bubbling away at the surface, the Liberal Party or the coalition will probably be able to grab that third seat back. But I don't think the centre-left are going to have any issues with the 2-1 split between Labor and the Greens. As with pretty much every state at this point, there'll be minor party competition from Pauline Hanson's One Nation. The Libertarian Party are running a fairly strong candidate as well. And Bernie Finn is running for Family First, and he's quite a well-known former state politician. Very divisive, but particularly in sort of areas around Western Melbourne, he could grab a lot of vote off the Liberal Party and potentially be a sort of sponge for minor right preferences as well. And then on the left, legalise cannabis. I think it's Fiona Patten running, so fairly high-profile candidate. I don't know how Fatima Payman's party is going to go, but it could be, I guess with any of these states, there is the chance that the 2 Labor, 1 Green split could be threatened a little bit, or at least shaken up slightly. So then New South Wales, I'm also expecting a status quo result here. Pauline Hanson's One Nation probably more likely to mount a proper challenge, but they have historically polled a little bit better in New South Wales, but the issue is at the state level, they've had some serious internal issues where, I don't know the full details, but basically I think their state MPs used parliamentary privilege to pretty much say that head office just grabs a lot of their taxpayer-funded money as part of like entitlements for being state MPs. So there's obviously issues in terms of the administration of One Nation. Whether or not that actually acts as a drag on their vote remains to be seen. The other factor here is Craig Kelly. You guys might remember him, the former member for Hughes, who defected to UAP, and he was their big lower house candidate. He has now joined the Libertarian Party, who also recently did quite well in local council elections, mostly because the Liberals failed to nominate in several of them. But a little bit of star power there, probably not going to make a huge difference though. Then over in Queensland, my reading of the polls is that Labor's primary vote is holding up enough to avoid the 2019 style result where you basically had this, but the Liberals grabbed a third seat and Labor lost one. I don't think Labor's primary vote's going to be in sort of the low 20%. I think they'll manage to hold it up, probably more at the expense of the Greens and maybe legalise cannabis. Who knows? I think One Nation will do just fine. Last time their primary vote was like 7.8, down from about 10.3, which was still enough. And I suspect with Jared Rennick's new party running, he's probably more likely to grab a little bit of primary vote from the Liberals and then direct preferences. Oh, there's a typo, sorry about that. And direct preferences to One Nation, and they'll soak them up from trumpeter patriots and the Libertarians and whoever else sort of on the minor right that ends up running. And I think that primary is just too high for the Liberals to maintain a solid lead above them. But if we do see Labor's position worsening, then yeah, we probably do have to start thinking about this second Labor seat and whether or not that could potentially be under threat from the LNP, or indeed if legalised cannabis polls high again, maybe up around 6%, they might be in with a chance of pipping the majors at the post there. We shall see. Over in South Australia, usually you would expect that sort of 1 Green, 2 Labor, 3 Liberal result or 3 Coalition result, but the Liberal brand is really on the nose at the state level, and One Nation's polling has consistently been pretty strong, particularly in some of the more working class areas of Adelaide and rurally. They almost won the 6th spot last time on a primary of about 4%. I expect they'll get at least 5 or 6%, and that should well and truly be enough for them to jump ahead at the last count. And the other one here is Rex Patrick, former senator who I think originally got in on Nick Xenophon's ticket. He missed out last time, but he's running for Jackie Lamy Network, which, who knows? I mean, the Xenophon ticket with Xenophon himself on it only got about 3% last time, so I don't know if that's really going to shake the race up at all, but it's worth thinking about. Over in WA, crazy result last time with Labor grabbing a 3rd seat along with the Greens and leaving the Liberals with only 2. And you actually had the Liberal preferences, like the excess from their second quota, those preferences actually distributed, which is not something you often see. And Labor were able to edge out One Nation for the final spot. But this time, I would think, and we'll keep an eye on the WA election results, particularly in the upper house, to sort of gauge where the levels of support are. But I would expect the Liberals will start ahead of both. Labor might not even win 2 quotas in their own right this time, but the Liberals will probably start with their excess from the second quota ahead of most of the minor parties and Labor, and then they should be able to ride out the preferences to claim that 3rd spot. But the other sort of little point of fascination here is that the Nats run a separate ticket. Now they're not usually competitive, but this time maybe just with the sheep export ban and some of these other issues cropping up that are a little bit more sort of regional in nature, they could be in with a chance to poll maybe 4 or 5%, and maybe the preferences from the minor right will be a little bit stronger to them than the Liberals, and they could be in with a shot of grabbing that 3rd seat. And then in Tasmania, probably expecting a status quo result, especially with Jackie Lamy herself being on the JLN ticket. Labor's primary is dropping off a fair bit in Tasmania these days. Whether or not that continues remains to be seen. The Greens are probably going to grab a quota in their own right again. It's whether or not Labor drops to somewhere around 1.6 of a quota, and then there might be issues with sort of competing for that second Labor seat. But for the moment, I think they'll get their 2. Greens will get 1. Jackie will keep hers, and that leaves the Liberals with the other 2. So, again, status quo result. And then finally in the territories, Northern Territory, it's going to be 1 Labor, 1 Liberal, or CLP, and that's whatever. They'll probably both poll over in or around the required quota, and that'll be an open and shut case. A little bit more interesting in the ACT. So last time, Labor basically polled a quota, Katie Gallagher, and then the Liberals polled about 26, or maybe it was more like 25%, and David Pocock was about 21%, and he basically rode the preferences from the Greens and another independent over the top of the Liberals and quite comfortably won the second seat. This time, I would expect the Labor primary probably drops off a little bit, the Liberals probably increases a bit, but at the same time, Pocock's likely to receive something of a sophomore swing and probably some more primary vote from the Greens, and some of those other kind of minor parties might flow to him. And then we could end up with a situation where all three of the major candidates end up on about sort of 27, 28, 30% of the vote. But again, I think Pocock's better placed to receive preference flow in that situation, as well as Labor. And I think we'll see a status quo result. So that's what, and again, I'm hoping I didn't make any mistakes here, but that's what I'm looking at for the post-2025 Senate. Again, slightly more sort of leaning in favour of the centre-left, which if the Liberals form government will be a little bit tricky for them to deal with. Looking at this, for them to pass legislation, they're going to have to go through pretty much the whole crossbench, which will prove to be a bit of a nightmare. And I'm just looking at this now. Independent should be 4, not 3. I probably missed counting Pocock there at the bottom. And there, I would say that maybe at some point during the, especially if it's a Liberal minority government, they may call a double dissolution at some point in order to try and reset things in the Senate. That's all, just a quick one today. Again, pretty sort of run-of-the-mill prediction, nothing too exciting in there, but we'll keep an eye on things. Let me know in the comments if you have better intel in your state, or if you know of a popular or well-known candidate running for someone that I've missed, or something like that. And before election night, I'll do another one of these and make a more substantive final prediction. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and keep an eye out for my future updates. Thanks, everyone. Bye.